Welcome to FutureFoodCast. I'm Pam Linemiller, your host. We're a community of food technologists, industry experts, and food enthusiasts talking about the future of food. Our sponsor is Farm to Plate, the brainchild of Paramount Software Solutions. Farm to Plate is a software company committed to creating tomorrow's food business ecosystem today. We have an excellent guest with us today. I'm so excited about all that she has to share. We have Marie Wright. She is the president of creation, design, and development, and also the chief global flavorist for ADM. Welcome to our podcast, Marie.
Thank you, Pam. I'm really excited to be here and talk to you.
Thank you. And we're so glad that you were able to join us because your company and you in particular have so much expertise to share with our listeners. But first of all, could I have a little background on what you exactly do at ADM in the creation, design, and development area, and just fill our listeners in?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little bit of a fancy title for sure, but when I describe my role, I'm leading this incredible team of 600 scientists across the globe who, are focused on developing new products, bringing the ADM portfolio to our customers, creating brands. We have scientists who are color scientists, chefs, flavorists, product developers, engineers, veterinary scientists, nutritionists, animal nutritionists. So it's a whole host of scientists. They're not focused on the long-term research. They're focused on working with customers to innovate around many of the trends that we're probably going to talk about today.
Yeah. And that innovation word, we love that at FutureFoodCast because that's a lot of what is happening in the food space to really be able to answer to some of the trends that we're going to talk about. And I'm so glad that you're able to fill us in on a lot that's going on there. I thought we might take a look because your company produces a report every year and it's just come out recently about all the global trends that are really going to color how we move into nutrition and food all across the space moving into 2023. And I would love to cover some of those highlights with you because you've identified some different areas. Would you like to tell us how this report came into existence and how it's been received?
Yeah, so this is a report that we bring out yearly. We develop the report in collaboration with Mintel, with a number of other Hartman, a number of other, trend spotting and data providing companies. And we also utilize our great network across the globe to monitor and look at trends. So they're not things that necessarily each year, it's not the top 10 flavor trends or the top 10 food trends per se. It's more about the mega trends. And then we look underneath that and we can look at different parts of the globe and see the impact of those kind of mega trends on what's happening. So it's really about culture. It's about the world and it's about how we're developing rather than those kind of more, it's the top flavor trends for 2023, although those will be sort of underneath those major big trends, if that makes sense.
It does. I mean,
so lots of data points, really.
Yeah. Well, ADM being the worldwide company that you are, you're well positioned to be able to pull all that together, and you're seeing all across the globe how things are being affected. So I kind of see it like that bird's eye view, and then you can dive deeper into what's making up those larger categories. But it seems like there's a bird's eye view. Like the one of the topics has to do with balanced. That people want a balanced life, and that is encompassing their, you can go into that, but mental, physical, and also the nutrition, they're just whole wellness portfolio for them personally.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we've seen this trend evolve, haven't we, around health and wellness. And, and then we've also seen how, it might have been just about immunity, or it might have been about one part of, weight loss or something like that. But now, we're also taking into account our mental well-being, and we're recognizing that our mental well-being can have a huge impact on our overall health as well. So people are taking a much more holistic approach, a balanced approach to health and wellness, and they're personalizing it for for their own needs. And of course, post-COVID, it's not so manic. During COVID, we were afraid. We were looking for every possible dietary supplement that we could take that would, counter any effects of getting COVID or having COVID. And now we're past that kind of frantic phase, and it really is about balanced wellness, which I think is interesting because it opens up a lot of opportunity for new products and product development.
Yeah, and maybe we were heading in that direction a little bit, but certainly the pandemic, people are more open. There's more conversation happening around mental wellness and like you were talking about the integration of all that, how your nutrition affects your mental and physical wellness and how all that works together, and that people are just paying more attention to what's happening with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite exciting, really. We've become a little bit more educated and open and able to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, and that has also spilled over into the pets, right? Because we talk about that holistic wellness and, moving, there's lots of topics here, moving towards different sources of nutrition, and pets play into that. Like all this works in a circle here. It all is interrelated.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I suppose, there was a boom, of course, during COVID in pet ownership. And, what we started to notice was this huge interest in the pet's health and wellness as well. And we've seen this evolve into what we're calling pet parenting. But I've been reading some really, really fun trends of how pet owners now want to, have places to go with their pets, places to meet. They want to go and have a bite to eat, something to drink, but they also want their pets to have a good time. So there are lots of these, I don't want to call them, let's call them social spots where you can get a beverage, you can get something to eat, or even something for your dog to eat or drink. There are menus for your dog as well, which I think is incredible. And there's plenty of these places that are opening up across the US now, and chains as well of these types of, social meeting places, gathering places where you can eat and drink and bring your pet. And it just seems, the next level pet ownership, bringing your dog to meet other dogs as well. There's one place, it's called Unleashed Hops, and I got the name here, Hops and Hounds, Unleashed Hops and Hounds. And this is where there's basically a dog park as well within the facility, and you can get something to eat, you can get a beer, so you can socialize while your dog socializes. So it seems, if we talked about that a few years ago, we would have thought it was quite unrealistic, right? And that it wouldn't even be a viable business, but it simply is a viable business now. So a whole different way of looking at our pets, and wanting our pets also to eat well, and making sure that, that their food, reading the labels and ensuring that their nutrition is correct, and even thinking about their microbiome and how their microbiome impacts their overall wellness. And, I think it's so fascinating. It's definitely a trend that I see staying with us for a while now and developing.
Well, especially since you said the numbers and the statistics are that so many people, acquired pets over the pandemic. And before that, it's been my experience that a lot of people take better care of their pets than they take care of themselves from a health standpoint. They're reading all the labels on the pet food, but then they're, not necessarily paying as much attention to what they're eating, and maybe overindulging in areas where they shouldn't be. So I hadn't thought about pet food out in a social setting, though. When I think about pet food, I always think about what you serve your pet at home. So I know that ADM plays a big role in that as far as pet products and pet foods and all of that. But I hadn't thought about the quote unquote like restaurant
food
environment.
Service. Yeah, food service for pets.
Food service for pets.
Yeah,
I hadn't really thought about that.
Yeah.
So balanced wellness for everyone, right?
Yes, balanced wellness for everyone, indeed. Yes, both
That's
mental
exactly
and physical.
Well, and along with that balanced wellness, I guess there is a trend to getting away from animal-based meats. Not that that's totally going away, but it seems like a lot of people are looking for alternatives, and that's another area of your report in the protein area, looking for alternatives.
Yeah. And I think and I think there's a continuation of that. For I think first of all we have to think about there's a need for it from a food security perspective. There wouldn't be enough protein from animal protein to feed the world. So flexitarianism was a kind of a trend, and maybe people were being flexitarians because they thought it was trendy, but I think that sort of big trend thing has passed, and people now have a lower key approach to it, and they're incorporating plant protein into their diets where they want to, and they're looking for different varieties. And then on the science side, we're looking for more opportunities to develop non-animal based protein, because we need to find ultimately a solution for the long term of how we're going to feed the world, and protein is a big part of that. So I think there's a lot of things going on there. And I think now we're seeing, the burger phenomenon still lives on, but you don't live on burgers. So we're moving much more towards products that you can incorporate into cooking, into your normal diet, and a much wider range of plant-based products, moving into seafood as well. And they're really very good.
Yeah.
And also the dairy alternatives. You really see the non-dairy cheese is actually very good, and it has non-animal casein that needed for the stretch in the cheese. Companies that are able to produce that. So I think that phenomenon is going to continue and grow, but it's more a part. It's almost like health awareness. It's more a part of who we are and what we're doing. You've had people eating soy, tofu, etc. for years in Asia, right? And it seemed novel to us to be using plant protein as our source of protein, but it isn't that novel. And I think the novelty now is going, and it's becoming more of our mainstream diet. And we're looking out to different sources of protein, and we'll continue to do that. So
Yes.
obviously, from our perspective, we want to partner, invest in all sorts of companies that are leading the way with new technologies to provide non-animal protein.
Well, and along those lines too, the sustainability piece of that really comes into play. I wanted to back up for just a second before I get into that, though. The flexitarian word, I don't know that all of our listeners might be familiar. Maybe we still have some really dedicated meat eaters, and I would love for them to be exposed to the fullness of what flexitarian means. So if you would share with our audience.
Because flexitarian might be appealing to the meat eater because it doesn't involve giving up meat. And being a flexitarian does mean exactly that, flexing across the protein sources. So you may, eat fish, you may eat plant protein one day. It's not rejecting meat altogether. And I think that's where the majority of people sit, and they sit there because they're wanting to support the environment. They're driven by environmental issues. I'm not saying they're not driven by animal welfare, because I think animal welfare is very important to all of us as another topic, but it's certainly about, having choice and having a healthier lifestyle and a more sustainable sourcing of food.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the animal welfare piece, as long as you brought that up, let's chat about that a little bit, because that really is a trend right now. People are paying a lot more attention to that. Consumers are starting to care about that. And I don't think consumers were very informed before, but now they want to know.
Yeah, they want to know everything. They want to know what's on their plate. They want to know how it got there. They want to know the companies that they're buying for are ethical and are doing the right things. It's important. So they want to have good integrity. They want to know, they're almost, farm to fork. They want to know everything about their food, or as much as they can know. They want to feel good about what they're doing or what they're eating and their choices. And so if they're choosing to eat meat, they want to know that good animal welfare has taken place, and that they also want to know a lot about the diet of what the animals are eating,
Right.
and the health of the animals, which I think is really important. So it's right across the board, visibility and traceability to what people are eating. And there's more education around it. People are asking more, and companies are doing more.
Yeah, they definitely are. And that is another area that you brought up in your report about that traceability and trackability for being able to figure out what the source of the product is that the person has, and what is being done there in your mind, or what are consumers looking for?
So they're looking for the most current trend, let's say, along sustainability is regenerative agriculture.
Okay.
There's even a word regenerivore. I can't even say it. So, that's the new, everybody's wanting to know that when we think about regenerative agriculture, those are practices that some of them are older practices where we're really taking care of the ground and how we treat the ground, the biodiversity of it, the soil content, the carbon, we're sequestering carbon, all these things that people want to know, the water quality, less water usage, all this type of thing is very interesting. So regenerative agriculture is the kind of trendy word, but it's something that very big companies like ADM are very much involved in. So that's vertically integrated right back to the farmer, obviously investing in the right farming practices to really create this better environment, as it were. So we're all very interested in that, and I think it's all for good. And you've got to have big companies like ADM. We have a partnership with Pepsi as well, which is well advertised, where we're committed to, expanding our regenerative agricultural, our number of acres together and our emissions together. So I think you have to have these big companies doing it because they're the ones that will make a difference.
Yeah. Like the good corporate citizen who
You
is
have to be
setting,
yes.
Setting the pace, because the smaller companies will follow. If you set that pace and you set that bar higher, they're going to rise to the occasion, and you're going to equip them with some methods and some ways to do that. And anybody that's interested in more information about the specifics, we have interviewed some of the people that are just involved with taking care of the soil and trying to use less pesticides. And I know ADM as a company is working on that as well. So we have plenty of information available for anybody that might want to find out more about that, because, it's very important to people. And taking care of the farmers, the fair trade, different certifications. It used to be a small minority of products, right, Marie, that had that kind of certification, but now it seems like there are just so many more. Would you agree? Are you seeing that happen?
Yes, I think it's
well?
expanded, and in some cases, not necessarily looking for certification. We kind of as a company, we have our own set of conduct, the way we work with farmers, the humane practices. We don't necessarily get a certificate, from the farmers for that, but we are, stewards, if you like, of the farming practices that the farms that we actually work with. And as well as you say, there's definitely an expansion of certifications across the board, but there's more of a interest in actually giving back to the farmers in a way that wasn't done before. So if we look at something like vanilla, where there's always been some kind of fair trade agreements and certifications, but the way we look at our relationship with our growers in Madagascar who are growing the vanilla pods is ensuring that they get the money into their hands. So we take the middleman out. So we're part of a cooperative with them, and our goal is to support them in a way that they really want to be supported, to be independent. Not necessarily, we might help building certain buildings and providing medical care, but really it's about bringing the money back to the farmers as well. That's important. So I think people want to know that there aren't all these middlemen benefiting from, the farmers themselves. So there's definitely more traceability, and people are looking for that. They want to feel that they're more responsible, that what they're eating isn't going to impact somebody in a bad way.
Right. And the things like that you're doing at ADM and the education you're pouring into the farmers to help them, maximize their yield and take care of the resources that they're farming with, and all those kind of things that I read about that you're doing is really important. And again, setting the trend, setting the pace for other companies to aspire to, that maybe if they're not doing that, so you can raise the level for everyone across the board. Well, innovation is a big part of what you do, where you are as well, and trying to figure out solutions to problems. And some of the problems that you cited here on your report that we were referring to, have to do with, I mean, there's some big problems out there that need to be solved. We want that earth friendly production that you were talking about with the farmers, and we want to have the regenerative farming and whatever that other word is that neither one of us can pronounce. Goes in that same category. But, being able to have that earth friendly, I guess, is a great way. I love the terminology you had in your report, the earth friendly production, like we're working in conjunction with the resources that we have.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's super important moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to take care of our world and take care of our environment. So it's sort of everyone benefits. So the consumers been pushing for it. Our companies have been acting and listening to the consumer and wanting to be good stewards of the earth. And I think that we all benefit from it, obviously, and that will continue. We see that there's so many aspects to the sustainability trend that we're seeing that aren't going away. That the mega trend that's just developing, and more companies are participating and trying to do the right thing.
Yeah. Tell me what you are seeing in sustainability. That's a big topic that you can have a lot of influence over in the policies that you're setting and the way that you're working with your suppliers and how they're working. And I know ADM has a lot of goals in that area as well. Well, Marie, you talked about sustainability, and ADM has a lot of goals in that area as well that affect the planet and what we're doing.
No, absolutely. I mean, obviously, we're committed to reducing our greenhouse gases. We have goals set for that. We're also just recently, maybe the past year, have achieved carbon neutral for all of our milling operations, which is a huge achievement. So,
congratulations. Yes,
yeah, that is a big one. And we have accelerated our deforestation targets as well, going from 2030 to 2025. And so that also applies to things that we buy, obviously our sourcing. So responsible sourcing, and, we put demands on our vendors to, have to comply with, our sustainability standards. So we've got lots of different things that we're targeting, that we want to achieve. And we're putting a lot of energy behind that, but we're also working with our vendors as well to achieve that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Again, just setting the bar and setting the trend and the example of being the large company that you are. We also talked about, in your report, you were talking about social impact and using your the purchasing power. I mean, people are speaking with their dollars. They're making their wishes known by products that they're purchasing and not purchasing based on what they can find out about them, as you talked about previously, the things that they care about. And if companies aren't stepping up to that, they're letting them know, right?
They're letting them know by not purchasing them. So, they're definitely, people want to feel good about what they're purchasing. They want to be buying from companies that they believe have the integrity. So they're looking for those stories. They're looking at labels, but they're looking more into also, going in and studying the companies. They care about the environmental. They care about food security, and I think that's going to continue. It's definitely the younger generation are very motivated by this.
Yeah, and again, this all goes together with the impact that you're having on the environment, and it's all working together. And everybody wants to see us moving in a positive direction. And I just love how the topics in your trends report. I hope everyone goes out and looks at that. We'll have a link in our show notes, certainly, for them to be able to access that and take a look at it. But it really, everything is interacting with one another. I mean, you have these different topics.
Yes.
As you look at it, everything's interrelated. And, the way that we're moving forward, it really matters. And people are caring about things like they never did before. So the fun thing, one of the last topics from the report anyway, certainly not the last thing we need to talk about, had to do with people and trying new food and eating out or buying different things. What did you find in that area? Just kind of experimenting.
Oh, yes, people. I mean, there's definitely that experimental eating trend. I mean, we're seeing an increase in theatre dining, and that doesn't mean going to the theatre. They want theatrics with the dining experience,
Oh,
so that
okay.
that can be kind of interesting. There's a definite sort of you're seeing a boom, a little bit, not a boom, but you're seeing a trend in, fun and letting ourselves go a bit, fun flavors, fun, whimsical things, dreamy flavors, dreamy taste, dreamy products.
Yeah.
So there's this sort of experimental trend, and that's kind of driving people to want to have some kind of escapism. But then there's also the wanting to try new things, different things. When we look at, for example, the trends around breakfast, we're seeing the emergence of Middle Eastern offerings at breakfast time. You'll see things like avocado toast with za'atar seasoning sprinkled on it, and
Who knew?
labneh, which is the strange yogurt, the Middle Eastern yogurt, and hummus hummus is featuring in breakfast. And you're seeing this more excitement around trying things at different times.
Mhm.
So I think people are wanting, the excitement of new experiences, the excitement of new products, new cuisines, new cultures, new spices. They're are eating out after the whole COVID piece of it where we were all trapped. So
Mm.
everyone wants to try things. And even though, of course, we're on this cusp, if you like, of things are a little tough now from an economic point of view,
Yeah.
people are still wanting to have fun and experiment. And breakfast and brunch is one of those great things that you can easily experiment with. It's not generally as expensive as going out for dinner, right? So there's definitely a lot going on there, which is fun. But I love the theater, the theater aspect of it. There's one restaurant 100 foot high where you're 100 foot high, and that's the experience of being 150 foot
Wow.
high, having your meal. So this type of thing it's kind of quite funny, right?
I don't know if
Um,
that's an experience I'd like to have, but I do know that we love to have experiences around food. We celebrate around food. We congregate around food. We, like you were talking about with pets and food and people, we socialize around food. And so it really is a center. And I think that a lot of us really suffered over the pandemic from that aspect of our food experiences. Just kind of being in a shut in situation rather than being able to be out in those, trying those fun new foods that maybe we don't try at home, and being with those different people or in different environments and
Yeah.
all of that. So I think you're absolutely right on with that. I can see 2023 is really opening up. People are traveling more. There's kind of like this pent up, I want to be out, I want to be experiencing, I want to try new things. And that is right in the food area as well, with
And we
all
like,
that they're doing.
you talked about sharing experience, and I think we're seeing more of that shared experience at meals. So more tapas style, more family style, people sharing, things so that they can taste and talk about it, rather than having an individual plate. So we're seeing more of that. We're getting more requests to develop, appetizer menus and small bites that can be shared at, sports parties, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So I think, we'll see more and more of that
Yeah,
as we move
very good.
forward.
Yeah, I think it's all very exciting. Is there anything overriding that you would like to share with us, like in general about the report? And we dove into a few of the areas, but is there any overriding view that you have that you would like to share with
Trying to
us?
think if we missed anything very big. I think we kind of went over the major topics, right?
Yeah. One that we didn't cover really was kind of the personalized piece of it, and how people are looking for nutrition and wellness, and not necessarily prescription, but very personalized, how they're
Yeah,
dealing with themselves and their wellness and their food.
they're looking at their own needs, and not that they necessarily need to go somewhere that's going to personalize a product for them, but they're able, because now there's so much choice, they're able to select food products and beverage products and dietary supplements that really suit their lifestyle and their health needs. And from our perspective, we do create some of the dietary supplements for microbiome, and that's obviously being a big boom. Everybody's very educated now in knowing that the microbiome can have a tremendous impact, not just on your digestive tract, but on many other aspects of your health. So we have a range called the Biocult range, which is on the shelves in the UK, and it covers many need states for health, for cognitive health, for pregnancy, for digestive health, metabolic health, and these products are extremely popular because they allow people to really personalize to their own health needs. So we're seeing microbiome playing a very big role in this sort of personalized health trend, because it does allow for so many need states to be helped by certain combinations of certain strains of biotics and botanicals. So it's kind of an interesting area. And then just people really customizing their diet to suit their needs and change. You hear people talking more about, have you tried this? It made me feel, so much better. I had headaches and I tried this food, or I tried this tea. And, I think that there's more and more of that. People are recognizing that what you put into your body is how your body's going to respond.
Right. To our earlier discussion about the balanced wellness approach, which is another point on the report, these two really play together because that conversation has been elevated. People are talking about the relationship between, your own body and what you put in it, and how healthy you are or not healthy, and the choices that you're making, and how you're feeling, and how you are physically, and how your mental health is. Like, just the whole conversation is happening. Like you said, people are talking, and it used to kind of be hidden. I think mental wellness used to be, because they always thought about mental wellness in a negative light, right? If somebody had a mental issue, that was always, it was always negative, but now it's more in a positive light. How can I increase my mental wellness? Like, I'm doing okay, but I could be, even more on point, have even more energy, more acute awareness of what I'm reading and seeing and how I'm reacting in the moment. And I think that's all positive, Marie, don't you?
I think it's positive, and definitely that we're talking about things, and that we're recognizing we can use supplements to change the way we feel, and we can improve our cognitive health. We can improve our energy. There are things that we can do ourselves to help ourselves, and I think it is great. It's being talked about for sure. That and especially the mental wellness piece of it.
Yes, well, I'm ready to fly over to the UK to get some of that other microbiome product that you have on the shelves out there. When are you coming to the US? We're ready. Maybe our FDA is not ready. I don't know. We have all. When I was over in London, I just remember, and France also, I just remember all of going into the pharmacy, and just the array of products that was available was so positive and so enlightening, and just a whole different, there's just a lot more.
Very different pharmacy experience. And I have to say, I love the European pharmacies, and especially the French pharmacies. But you have to remember that, that those cultures have been very much immersed in what you eat and what you put into your body kind of really impacts your health. And they've known about these secrets that we're all finding out about. They've known about for years. So for many, many decades. And, so they tend to have, very high profile pharmacies that are full with great product lines for sure. Yeah.
Well, moving forward, looking into 2023, as you are with your trends report, and with your view of what's going on, what's exciting about what is happening with ADM, some of the maybe global things that are going on, or even specifically, do you have anything you'd like to share with our audience to be looking out for, or things that we should be paying attention to, projects that ADM might be working on? I love your partnership with Pepsi and working together, that corporate citizen approach, and, the sharing of information that you talked about. I think that's a really positive thing that I just want to pull out of what you've already said. But
yeah, no, that is a very positive thing. And I think you'll see more and more partnerships and relationships that are put into place to benefit our key platforms of sustainability, food security, innovation. We'll continue to work with entrepreneurs and technology companies as they develop and create new proteins from all different sources. We'll continue to expand our sustainability initiatives. We'll continue to expand our health and wellness platform and looking at working with our customers to develop nutritious products, expanding our biotics range, our botanicals, using our flavors and colors, expanding our natural color range. All these things are commitments to making tastier, healthier food and beverages for the world, for sure, and making a better world. But I would be remiss of me as a flavorist to not sort of comment. Of course, taste is
Please.
king, and so it doesn't really matter if things have to taste good. So I think we're seeing interesting evolving of flavors. Things like, I think, salted watermelon is going to be a really interesting flavor for many, many things coming up in 2023 with lychee, yuzu. You see more and more yuzu. And that's, there are things that I see our consumers are gravitating towards those kind of refreshing profiles, more interesting profiles. So that really opens up a host of adventure in developing foods. And new ingredients that we're always developing at ADM will also be incorporated in those.
Yes. Well, I just love, you must have the most fun job ever, just being able to be on the forefront of all these trends that we're talking about and be able to impact things moving forward in a really positive way. And I'm just so glad that you were able to share some of your expertise with us. And thank you for sticking the flavor, the chief global flavorist point of view in at the end, because you are absolutely right, Marie. No matter how good it is for us or our bodies or our minds, if it doesn't taste good, we're not going to eat it, and our pets aren't going to eat it, right? So
no, they're definitely not going to eat
it. Well, listen, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Pam. I really appreciate the time. It was great fun.
Yes, and thanks to our sponsor, Farm to Plate. They're enabling better food supply management. If you want to know more, you can go to farmtoplate.io.
Thanks for listening to Future Foodcast. Future Foodcast is powered by Farm to Plate, the leading food blockchain platform. Subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts to stay up to date with the very latest innovations in the food industry.